Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're finally covering the second season of the Demon Slayer anime.
Yes,
finally.
yes. And this season retreads the Mugen Train movie arc with new additional scenes and Rengoku's own episode, which
is
I
wonderful.
loved. Yes. And then the second half covers the Entertainment District arc where they help the Hashira Tengen infiltrate the Red Light District, and he's also lovable too.
Yes. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, click notification bell, dates on future podcasts, and all the pause videos.
Absolutely. Really excited for this season because we, of course, have seen season 1. We bought Mugen Train. We all know how it ends. We've watched it multiple times. I've cried each time. Rascal only once. And then we get here and she says, well, you know, we don't have to watch that part or we can skip. I'm like, no. Every extra scene they got a Kyojuro I want to see.
Of course.
So we watched it from the beginning, and I was really thrilled we did because the first episode that marks the beginning of the season was an outstanding Kyojuro Rengoku episode.
Yes. And it was basically showing what happened before the events of the Mugen Train movie or arc. And it really shows how things would have gone differently for this character and for the arc itself of like different choices were made. If Hashira did something different or Chandra did something different, it probably would have been an entirely different outcome than what she had. And not in a bad way, but just like, you know, you could have had something even bigger.
It could have been a bad way and a good way, because if he hadn't gone and they had sent no Hashira at all, then everyone on the train would have died, including Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu.
Right.
If they had sent more Hashira, then they could have beaten them and Rengoku died.
Right.
So it could have gone either way. And if he hadn't taken the train at all, yes, he would have been happy. But again, it looks like some way, except for more Hashira being there with them, it was going to end badly.
Right.
The way it was written, they didn't want it to.
Right. It's almost like going into like a what if series, like with Marvel. Like you think about different things that could have happened, choices could have been made where that end result for him didn't have to happen. It would have been entirely different.
Right. And we got to see more fun scenes between him and Tanjiro and the others. We got to hear him call them boarhead more and yellow hair.
And they call him bug-eyed.
Yeah. And we got to see him go, big bro, big bro. There was just so much fun in the beginning of the season. And Rascal always says, you know, when there's this much fun, crap's going to happen. And as we know, crap did happen.
Right.
But I do like that by watching the season itself and them having the things that were cut when it was made into a movie and us seeing the extra episode of Kyojuro, it made it more enjoyable.
Yes.
And it was a good move because the movie would have been really different if they had added all these extra things.
Right.
It would have had a different effect. So it was smart to cut the things they did cut out
right.
and edit it and leave it for the series. And a lot of times you'll watch and you'll go like with Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, why'd you cut all this out? It was a good movie, you screwed it up. But in this case, it was the opposite. By
right.
cutting all those things out, they made it an excellent movie. And then the series itself, the season itself, I should say, for the series was excellent as well.
Right. Because we had seen back when this was airing on TV or they were streaming, some people were just going to skip the Mugen Train re-airing and just wait for Tengen's arc because they didn't want to see reruns and they just saw the film. So they decided, okay, we'll watch from Goku's episode, then we're going to skip and then wait for the other half. And some people just straight up skipped it, which is fine, but they really missed out on a lot of extra things because of it.
Right. And of course, after that, you got to see Tanjiro go and notify his family. You got to see more of his little brother Shinjiro, voiced by Cedric Williams Jr. And you got to see how they took it. And what really shocked us, and Rascal kept saying, is 4 months. Oh my gosh, it was 4 months before they could send them back out.
Yes, because of how
traumatic.
How traumatic it was, and Mugen Train was. They couldn't just like have them heal and then go back out there. They had lost someone they already grew to love immediately. They were really damaged from fighting the demons. And they weren't even mentally ready to go back. Even when their bodies were healed, they weren't mentally ready. So there was no way they could send them back out there and then something happens to them because they were so bad that their version of paramedics, I know they're called something else, but they're kind of like paramedics for demon slayers. They wouldn't even leave Rengoku for where he had passed on, they wouldn't leave, so they had to carry them out because they wouldn't leave him. So that's how bad they were messed up. So they just, helped them, they helped them heal, and they trained them some more before they sent them back out for another mission.
So with that arc ended, it goes into the Entertainment District arc, and we are introduced to Tengen Usui.
Yes.
And it was a great way to get us laughing again after the sadness of Kyojuro, because
Right.
I'm sorry, no matter how many times I see it, I cry.
Right.
But he was a great way to bring it in. He's overzealous. He's big, not
Right.
only in presence, but he's and I'm going to say the king of flashiness and festivals.
Yes.
And he's just bodacious and outgoing.
And they're like, what is with this guy?
And that's the total opposite of Rengoku.
Yes.
And so they didn't know how to handle him at first. Zenitsu, of all people, this guy is crazy. It's like, who's talking? And you're introduced to him by him grabbing girls so that they could help him go undercover and find his wives who were missing. Yes, we said wives missing in the Entertainment District, the
Right.
Red Light District.
Right.
And you're introduced to him being just big and gregarious. And at first, you're not sure how you're going to take him. He seems kind of abrupt. He seems kind of short
Yeah.
in terms of talking to them. But there's got to be some good to him because he's a Hashira. And
Right.
that, you're going to see it eventually. But in the beginning, you're kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to like this guy. Let's just see what
which
happens.
I guess was the point. It's like, they're not trying to replace Rengoku or anything, but I think it was hard for them to accept another Hashira.
Introduce another
still.
story, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm just going to say the boys convinced him to leave the girls and to take them, and they'll go undercover. And of course, the hilarity ensues when
Yes.
you see them in their makeup and their girl clothing, and you can't stop laughing, and you'll want to watch the episode more than once because it is just one of the best episodes of the
Yes.
season.
And one running joke in here, both for actually within the show and then a bit of a controversy outside, is that when Zenitsu hears Tengen has 3 wives, he gets upset beyond belief. It's like, how can someone like you, looks like you, have 3 wives? And he's so upset over this. They're like, what is your problem?
And he's like, I'm flashy.
And then with that, before the season,
And then?
before the second half of the season came out, there was a lot of controversy in the States before it came out, and they see in Japan that when it was revealed in the intro that Tengen had 3 wives, people were kind of really taken aback, and they thought they were promoting a different polygamy, and they thought it was going to be inappropriate. They didn't want to show it on TV. They were really up in arms about it. And then we watched it, and
it was nothing.
Nothing happened.
The funniest part is that intro, because he's sitting in that chair like, I'm the big guy, I'm the man. He's got his hands and his women behind him, and it's meant to be tongue-in-cheek because the music is going, and you got the Entertainment District, you got the flashiness because he's the king of flashiness in festivals, and it works, and it was meant to be fun. It was meant to be hilarious, and for us it is. And then, of course, during the course of the show, you find out his backstory, how he gets the wives, and then when you really realize that he loves them and they love him, hey,
nothing inappropriate really happens the entire
you get
time.
to see one of them's butt cheeks. That's the most thing that happened in the entire season.
That's it. Yeah, so it was really clean, and people didn't understand why there was so much uproar about it. They didn't even want to air it because of that.
But also a lot of the criticism comes from people who didn't even watch it.
Right.
And that always happens with a lot of anime, manga, whatever shows you're discussing. People will comment and criticize. Have you watched an episode? No. Have you seen it? No. How can you comment on what you haven't read or what you haven't seen? But they do.
Right.
So yeah, it was unnecessary. It's fun. He loves them. They love him. And he loves them so much that he hasn't had contact with any of them in weeks. And so he wants people to go undercover to try to find out where they are. Are they still alive? He's really worried. And it's one of the funniest parts, again, of this same episode is you've seen Tengen, you see him on the picture. I know she's got one there for you. He is flashy. He is gregarious. He's got the fingernails painted and his face painted and his fancy hair, and he's 6'6" and all this. And he says, "I'm gonna go undercover with you and take you in."
Yeah.
And his idea of going undercover is removing all the flashiness and festivalness and being plain with the robe. And he stuck out like a sword. He stuck out like bright lights all over him. Look at him, look at him, look at him. He would have been more undercover dressing as he normally is a Hashira, but it was so hilarious. He was plain, and all they kept saying is, "We heard a gorgeous man brought them in." Gorgeous. Like, if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't have stuck out. But you, in your mind, think that being plain and removing all your fancy stuff makes you look undercover. That was so hilarious.
Yes, and then from that point on, it was just like it's a hilarity, and it does get to some really big action scenes, so much that it
and some
really
seriousness later.
Yeah, there really is serious later. Besides when they have like the demon battles at the end, because they go on for like maybe 5-6 episodes, and it's really explosive. It's really highly animated, and people really loved it because they even said topped season 1 since there was a lot more of story rather than fighting. This one kind of topped the animation because there was a lot of big moves and effects and things to use. Because this season is actually a little shorter.
Yeah.
It's not 26 episodes. I think it's a little over 13 because Mugen Train kind of takes up 6 or 7 episodes already.
Let's just hope they don't shorten season 3.
Right, because if they do, because then that means they'll have to
end
do
up being like a Netflix series.
Right, then it's gonna be weird.
Yeah. So, just to finish this off, you were introduced to more of the demons that are in the red light district that you didn't know existed.
Right.
And
how they work.
And they're pretty hardcore, and they're higher ranking. They're closer to the ranking of Muzan.
Yeah.
And so they're more powerful, they're more dangerous, and they really have a contempt and hate for humans. And then you get to see through the rest of the season this play out, and you have to see them really fight hard. All the training that they got during that 4 months comes in handy because none of them walks away from the end of the season unharmed. None of them.
Yeah.
All of them got hurt in one way or another, either somewhat superficially to the extreme.
Right.
And as Rascal said, it was just really high intense, high energy. One more funny part though before we finish this out. Somehow Tengen is brilliant enough to train assistants. And when he says, "I have some people or some guys," or however he put it, to help him out, we were like, "Oh, okay." And all of a sudden, all these little buffed up mice come out going, "Musha, musha, 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 musha." And they got the little Tengen headband, they got the little Hashira pants, they got big muscles. And he said they had to follow 2 guidelines. 1, they had to love their muscles. And 2, what was the second one?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Other muscles more than anything.
And it was like, oh my gosh. And it was hilarious. Musha, 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 musha. That's all they say. I said, how did you dress them? How did you get them pumped up? And how the heck did you have them go, musha, musha? Right. And they would bring the swords. Right. They were going to tight places and help them out. So they really do help. But the fact of the matter that they say this man trained these mice and they don't tell you how is hilarious.
Right. It's just like, this is it. It's like with the Talking Panda and JJK. It's like, you're not going to tell us no. Okay.
So there is a less tragic ending for this season.
Right.
Although, again, they all got hurt in various degrees. And if you haven't seen it, we don't want to spoil it for you. If you've been on Twitter, it's probably already been spoiled. But this season was fantastic.
Yeah, heck, they tried to do it twice. Forgot about that.
Amazing, great. The animation was just, wow, fluid and incredible. The voice actors, we got to see all of it dubbed, and we saw some of the episodes subbed. And in both cases, the Japanese voice actors and the English voice actors were outstanding. Of course, we like the dub better for this. In this series, we like the dub more because we get to hear our favorite voice actors. And there's nothing they could have done better except for let Rengoku live. That's
Yeah.
the only thing that could have been done better.
Yeah, and usually with things like that, they will like change some things, like we've seen with anime, where they'll make up an ending or change something because they think it works better. We're kind of surprised they did not do that this time. But hey, if they decide like 100 years from now they do a reboot, they could.
Or they could do one with just his story, or maybe he and the Water Hashira, like they have
In the book.
Yu Tomioka.
Yes.
And that would be great. But it's just an exceptional series. We've seen a lot of hate online where people go where the writing isn't that good and it isn't great and it's not a big three. It doesn't have to be a big three. It just has to be Demon Slayer what it is.
Right.
And later on we're going to do a podcast on another anime series from 2012 where we've seen not one, not two, not three, but the inspiration for 7 anime that we've covered.
Yes.
Not only inspiration, but also some direct copyings for their anime and their story.
Yes.
And if you haven't seen Demon Slayer Season 2, you really have to. It's available on Crunchyroll in dub and sub.
Yes.
And if you have an opportunity, read the manga. Rascal started reading the manga, and the manga is absolutely outstanding.
Yes. And also stay tuned for coverage of Season 3 when it comes out.
Yes. And if you want some more fun in between, they've got a series where they're all teenagers in school, and then you've got the Hashira as teachers, mainly Rengoku and
Yes, nothing happens to him in here.
and Tomioka. But Tengen is, I don't understand how Tengen's like this rebel kid.
Yeah, he's not a teacher.
But what's weird is that Tengen is older than Rengoku.
Yeah.
Tengen is 23 when Goku was 20 at the time of his passing. So how is he a kid? I guess they thought it would be funnier in this instance.
Right,
to
'cause of
make
how
him a
he
rebel
acts,
kid,
yeah.
Right. But if you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. Type it in and you'll find various channels that have some of the clips. They are hilarious. They are worth your time. And maybe we'll go ahead and give you a little quick ET on that as well and show you some of the pictures.
Right.
They're hilarious.
Right, and if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and weekly videos on your favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
And more Demon Slayer. We are there until the end of the ride, just like with MHA.
Yes. So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace. Set your heart ablaze!